And so now every time I do a Dini, I'm like, oh, there's some love.
Yeah, you already know.
I'm like, yeah, I have like a leg for you. I'm like, oh shit. If other people were to hear me, they'd be like, you're a evil.
Like 6 months or a year ago, you told me about the proposition. And so now every time I do a meet at Dini, I'm like, oh, there's some love.
Yeah, you already know.
Other days it's like more intact, where it's like maybe only like an arm that's
I would imagine.
I'm like, yeah, I have like a leg for you. I'm like, oh shit. If other people were to hear me, they'd be like, you're evil.
Live baby being delivered after an abortion that was crying in the bucket that I caught it in.
How did you try to kill it?
I covered it with a towel so it wouldn't cry, so the mother would not hear it cry.
Oh.
However, being a good doctor, it was moving. It was moving.
Was the mother unconscious?
No, the mother was there, caught it in a bucket. It was squeaking and making noise. It was 23 weeks. It had to be close to what I thought was a pound. Reached in around my towel, trying to suffocate this child. I picked it up by its head and it felt heavy. So I put it on the scales, and that's when it showed 505 grams.
So you didn't just, forgive me, you didn't just let it die. You tried actively to suffocate it at that point, which is no different to killing it within the womb, of course. So I suppose it shouldn't shock me, but
Look
it
at me.
does.
No, this is the whole idea. When they say, when the world says, when a live product of an abortion, they're
those
talking
mother
they're-
effers.
They are truly MFers, buddy. The whole system is rigged to abort the pregnancy, to decrease fertility. Climate change, too many people, human cause. We are always the problem.
April 5th, 2016. This is an idyllic Southern California spring day. As I'm walking out to take the kitchen garbage out, I turn around the corner and pass a big white windowless van. All of a sudden the door swings open and this tall uniformed guy steps out and he has a piece of paper in his hands and he says, "Are you David Daleiden?" And he says, "I'm with the California Department of Justice. We have a search warrant for your home." And he hands me the warrant. And I think to myself, oh gosh, what's going to happen next? So about 5 or 6 California DOJ agents started stomping through my apartment. The other 5 of them standing on the lawn outside. Some of them were armed with AR-15s. Some of them had canine dogs with them. They had come for me. In 2013, I began and orchestrated an almost 3-year-long, very in-depth
Tell us more about your encounters with her and a raid on your apartment.
Yeah. So in April of 2016, at the behest of Planned Parenthood, Kamala Harris ordered a search warrant served on my home in Orange County. I think it was a total of 11 agents of the California Department of Justice sent by Kamala Harris came in, overturned my entire one-bedroom apartment. They seized all of the video recording equipment, all of my computer equipment, everything that was, all the electronic equipment that was used to do the undercover filming. Fortunately, there were backup hard drives and, attorneys had copies of stuff and other things. So they didn't take anything that I absolutely needed in order to continue to do my work, but they primarily, they were looking for the videos, and they were looking for the original videos. We have in the investigator notes from the Attorney General's office now, they recorded in their case notes Planned Parenthood specifically requesting of Kamala Harris's office that they would specifically go in and seize the videos from me. So they were trying to take all the raw footage away and trying to do a huge cover-up. They weren't successful at doing that, but that's just one of many things that Kamala Harris, as Attorney General of California, was willing to do to put the powers of her law enforcement office at the service of the interests of a powerful and favored political backer at Planned Parenthood.
That being said, she is a likely 2020 presidential candidate. What do you want viewers to know about her as we see that she will likely run?
Yeah, I just saw her recently on, I think it was MSNBC, talking about the confirmation hearings of William Barr, who's the new nominee for Attorney General. And Senator Harris was opining that really nominee Barr, if confirmed, probably, she thinks, should recuse himself from the Russia investigation because of some op-eds he's written about the Mueller probe or something like that. Well, when Kamala Harris had the Planned Parenthood case, which was the investigation of me, brought before her as Attorney General, while she was running for U.S. Senate, while Planned Parenthood in California was contributing to her political campaign and she was fundraising for them, fundraising off of her goodwill with Planned Parenthood for her senatorial campaign, did she recuse herself from the Planned Parenthood investigation? No, she didn't. In fact, she didn't even set up, they sometimes talk about having a wall of separation in the prosecutor's office in order to make sure that there's no improper crossover. Not only did she not recuse, did she not set up a wall of separation, she consciously and willfully involved herself directly and personally in the Planned Parenthood case. She had an in-person meeting with 6 Planned Parenthood executives from California in Los Angeles 2 weeks before the raid on my apartment. We have the action item notes and the email from her assistant from that meeting.
Wow.
They show that among the Planned Parenthood folks present, 2 of them were witnesses in the criminal investigation that Kamala Harris's office was orchestrating against me and Sandra. And they show that the agenda items that Kamala Harris discussed with those Planned Parenthood witnesses and representatives at that meeting included both Planned Parenthood's political agenda in California and issues in the criminal investigation. So there was a direct mixing of her political roles and political agenda and campaign agenda and political agenda of an outside third party, directly mixed in, inseparable from her role as a law enforcement officer.
That is some powerful insight right there.
Senators got a federal judge in San Francisco who previously opened and funded a Planned Parenthood clinic to issue a federal injunction against the release of the remaining footage. I and my organization now face a total $25 million fine for our investigative reporting. I guess being able to continue to sell baby parts is worth at least $25 million to Planned Parenthood. Aborted babies are only valuable for Planned Parenthood to harvest and sell and for government-funded laboratories to buy, precisely because they are human beings just like us. But the message that our civilization needs now more than ever is that the value of every human being is infinite. At a time when powerful government and media forces are trying to silence this message, and well-meaning public officials sometimes struggle to find their voice, it is imperative for the People's House to reopen formal investigations of the black market in aborted baby organ harvesting so that taxpayer-funded entities can never put a price tag on human beings. Thank you.
I also represent David Daleiden, a very prominent journalist who is being persecuted by the state of California for undercover taping, which is something that all the liberal entities do, 60 Minutes does, other people do. Nobody prosecutes them for exposing corrupt behavior on the part of corporations. But when David Daleiden exposed corrupt behavior on the part of Planned Parenthood, illegal behavior, he is being prosecuted for undercover taping in this state, the only journalist ever for that to happen. There's been a motion pending in front of the court for years now on selective prosecution. There's literally no other cases like his. And yet, you know, the courts are dodging it. I think judges are literally rather retiring than answer this question. This case has been going on for so many years.
Based on that argument, it makes more sense, in my opinion, to offer abortion services up until a child is 18 years old. Because until they reach adulthood, we don't know if they're going to be a productive member of society. So based on the argument that we have heard today, we should allow it up until they are adults. It would solve many problems. Think of the disruptions in school, bad behavior, anything. If you could just say to your child, well, I'm sorry, you're misbehaving, you're not going to be a productive member of society, or you're going to have a hard life, let's go off to the abortion clinic. And it would be more humane for that child, because we know what abortion looks like in the womb, and it is horrible. It would be much more humane to simply go to the abortion clinic and have the child put to sleep. Would you not agree?
Become a national distribution hub for the kidneys of aborted babies up to 5 and 6 months old. So some of these are coming from infants who are of a viable age that they could be delivered alive, and if rushed to the right NICU at the right hospital could potentially survive after that. But instead, the particularly perverse part of this grant application is the University of Pittsburgh is advertising to the NIH that they are going to use labor induction abortions as a method for obtaining fetal tissue. That is black and white lettering in the grant application saying that they're going to just deliver the fetuses, have them pushed out of the patient's whole, and they say that they're going to be minimizing the ischemia time of the body parts when they harvest them. Ischemia, and this is according to an NIH definition, the standard medical definition of ischemia is when blood supply is lost to a body part. So explicitly in these grant applications, Pitt is advertising to the federal government they're going to deliver the fetuses whole, they're going to minimize the amount of time that there's a loss of blood supply to the kidneys before they cut them out. And when we confronted the University of Pittsburgh about this publicly, when we began to just last week, the University of Pittsburgh admitted in their statement, in their public media statement to news media, they said, yeah, ischemia means the time after the tissue harvesting procedure is completed. So what they're saying is that if ischemia means the time that blood supply is lost from the fetal kidneys, they're saying ischemia doesn't start until after they've cut the kidneys out. That means that there's still blood flow, there's still circulation. The hearts of these babies are still beating at the time that their kidneys are being cut out for millions of dollars in federal grant money from the NIH. And so this means at the very least, these are partial birth abortions, and it's probably straight up infanticide where they're delivered whole and alive and killed by cutting the kidneys out. This is absolutely despicable that taxpayer dollars are funding this. It's disgusting that people in the federal government have known about this since 2015, and apparently nothing has been done yet. Respectfully, I think it's time that Merrick Garland should be called in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Francis Collins, the head of the NIH, should be called in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. We saw how Senator Rand Paul grilled Dr. Fauci just a couple of weeks ago about unethical experiments on gain of function with taxpayer dollars. They should all face even more imperative scrutiny from the people's elected representatives about what they are doing to infants and to pregnant women at the University of Pittsburgh. By the way, the grant application was targeting pregnant women and their babies based on race. They had racial quotas for the number of minority infants and women who had to be harvested from. I'm sorry, but this is one of the most disturbing stories that I have ever reported on. It should be front page news everywhere. It should be the most important thing.
Our goal at Planned Parenthood, though, was not just to go into a college and meet them at college and turn them around and make them pro-choice warriors. Our plan was to actually develop a relationship with them beginning in kindergarten in the school system. And I know there's, probably here you're hearing a lot of things about public school, and people say, okay, well then I'm not going to put my kids in public school, and that's the answer. Let me be clear to you. Planned Parenthood is everywhere. My daughter is not on social media. She does not have a phone where she can peruse the internet. She does not have a television in her room. We have a very strict policy in our house. Televisions are not in my children's room. Nobody has a TV in their bedroom. None of my children will ever have access to social media while they're in our home. They do not have phones where they can get online. If they ever need the computer in our house, it has to be accessed from the living room. We are very strict parents in that way. Not because we want to be strict necessarily, but because we know that predators are out there. Not because we don't trust our children, but because we don't trust the world around them. And so we're very clear on that. And my daughter, who's 17, is very thankful that we have put those parameters in place for her because she sees what's happening to her friends out there. She sees what's happening. And so she's very thankful that we've put those boundaries in place to protect her. But she has Spotify. She has Spotify where she listens to music. And she says, Mom, every other ad on Spotify is a Planned Parenthood ad. Her friend was playing a game on her phone, and she goes, Miss Abby, every other ad on the game that pops up is a Planned Parenthood ad on a game. So let me be clear. You can homeschool your kids, and you can protect your kids, and you can do everything you want, but Planned Parenthood is coming after your children. in every single way they can. And they're doing it starting in childhood. They're doing it in children's games. They're doing it in educational games that you deem safe for your children. They're going to start advertising to your children. Our sex education program began in kindergarten with 5-year-olds. Now, were we intentionally talking about abortion to children? No, we weren't. Nothing in the program to 5-year-olds is something that you were going to go, oh, I don't want my 5-year-old learning about that. No. It was about boundaries. It was about protecting your body. It was things that you would say, okay, that's not a problem for me. Oh, and by the way, when a Planned Parenthood goes into a school, and we were in many parochial schools and many private schools. And how did we get in there? Because we didn't say we were Planned Parenthood. We said we were a program called Big Decisions, or Healthy Alternatives, or something like that. They disguise themselves because the enemy is sly. They don't say that they're Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood, they are liars. They are deceivers. And that's how they're getting to our children. But the point is not to go in there and tell them about abortion when they're 5 years old. The point is to develop a relationship with your children when they're 5 years old. But I will say in first grade, our program did involve bringing stuffed animals into the classroom and showing them different sexual positions with stuffed animals. First grade is when it became graphic. And it just got worse from there. The whole point of getting into the school and developing a relationship with your children is so that when your children do start to have questions about sexuality, and they will, is so that that Planned Parenthood educator can say to your child, listen, when you start having questions, you can come to me. Don't go to your parents. Your parents don't understand. They're old. You're going to get in trouble if you ask your parents questions like this. So don't go to your parents. Come to me. You can trust me. You've known me since you were 5 years old. Right? So you can come to me. Don't go to your parents. How do I know these Planned Parenthood educators are saying this? Because I used to say it. This is what we're trained to say. This is what we're trained to do. And so the kids start coming to you when their hormones start going wild and they're 11, 12, 13 years old, and they come to you and they go, Miss Abby, I'm starting to have questions about my sexuality, blah, blah, blah. And we go, oh, you know what? If you're even thinking about that, we need to get you into a clinic and we need to get you on birth control. And we put them on a birth control pill. We put them on the pill. Why? Because we know there's a high human error rate. Did you know that in order for the birth control pill to work perfectly, you have to take the birth control pill every single day within a 2-hour time frame? I am 43 years old, friends. If you asked me to take a pill every day within a 2-hour time frame, I would fail. But you put that into the hands of an 11-year-old and you ask her to do it, she assuredly is going to fail. And that's the whole point.